Welcome to the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the #1 podcast for creatives to learn strategy, structure, and self-development. I am your host, Ron Ironically Jr.
And I am your host, ShySpeaks. And today we are excited, as always. I say all the guests are special, but this one is special because it's different. Okay, I'm telling y'all. Matter of fact, let me do this because I'd be too excited. Ron, introduce our guest.
All right, so listen, we have the phenomenal Janan McDougal, but she is the owner of a phenomenal company called the Printheads. Actually, if you're looking at these here, the Minding My Creative Business jumpsuit here, her company did these jumpsuits for us. So yes, she is someone that worked in corporate, that left corporate to pursue her dreams of entrepreneurship. She is also an online influencer, social media influencer, and she is a podcast host as well now. So, Janan McDougal, welcome.
Man, that sounds so weird, saying podcast or YouTuber. I'm just now entering into this realm. I'm like, this is weird, but yeah, thank you.
Welcome. So that's how I would introduce you. So how would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so no, thank you for the introduction. I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've always been a visionary, and I knew from a long time ago that I wanted to have my own business. I knew I had the vision, I had it set up, I just didn't know the what.
Okay.
And I knew I was creative, and I knew I liked to do, different things. People always liked stuff that I put together, liked how I put things together. And so I was working in corporate America. I was a financial advisor. I was a stockbroker, did all of the things. I mean, the high stress, all of that. Clients calling me nonstop, talking about what's up with my portfolio. And I was just done. I was like wore out. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I got into the business because my dad is like, hey, go do this right out of college, and this will be great for you. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? They make great money, and let me go try and see it. So I went after I finished school, went on and took the test that I needed to take in order to get licensed, and I hit the ground running. So I started, and I became a top producing, really the only top producing African-American female in the company. And so I was, really on my thing, and the market crashed, and I was just like, okay, is this really what I want to do? Stuck it out through the market crash, and I said, you know what? I am working really, really hard, and I'm doing something that I felt like I was on a hamster wheel constantly. And I remember having this moment where I just felt like, okay, Janan, if you continue to go at this rate, at this pace, you're not going to be here long. And so I was just kind of sitting with myself, and I heard this, I heard loud as day, step out and step up. So, usually when you get that whole feeling inside, it's like you start to tell people just so that they can talk you out of it. That's what I think. They can talk you out of it. So I told my husband, and I'm like, I think I need to, leave work. And I just think I need to just put my energy into building something on my own. And surprisingly, he said, well, if you need to leave, go. Yeah.
Come on, support.
Right. I said, support. Yeah, exactly. I said, well, so now I done talked all of this stuff, and now I had to back it up. Right. So it's one of those situations where it's like, that was my only shot. If I'm going to talk it, I need to stand behind it. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to pull this card again. And so I said, well, all right, I'm going to jump. He said, okay. So I left. I went, feet first into the deep end, and just started, my business from there.
Okay. When you say you just left, did you just leave, did you do an exit strategy? Right. Okay, let me do 3 months, let me do 6 months, okay. Or did you just say, all right, I'm going to give you the regular, decent 2 weeks notice, and then I'm leaving? That's important for creative entrepreneurs. They're like, how do I get out?
Yeah. Well, you know what? So I did it probably not the most conventional way. I would suggest that somebody kind of eases into it and they use their employment, as their, fund themselves first and then, move on and start a different business and use that second business, to, start, you're doing that as a part-time thing until you can make that your full-time. That's what I would suggest. That wasn't necessarily my story because I'm also, I'm a jumper anyway.
Okay.
And I feel like as long as I am operating in God's will, then I just can't fail. And so when I believe that now I can't advise that way because I don't know if God didn't tell me what you're supposed to do. So I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I just know that was what I was supposed to do. And so I said, well, I'm out, so that was unconventional for me. But nonetheless, through the ups and downs, because business ownership is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's been a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. And during those valley moments, I had some times where I'm like, I don't know if I made the right decision. Almost to the point where,
back and see if I can.
Well, my licenses actually had a shelf life of like 2 years where I could be away from a company. And so I was like, I got to that 18 months and I went on an interview. And I went to an interview with one of the big financial companies, and they loved me when I was in there. And they were like, when can I hire you? But let me tell you what I felt. Walking in, I felt the weight that I felt immediately after leaving out. I felt that weight, and I was like, I can't go back. And so from that moment, that was my fork in the road moment. I said, there is no plan B. Once those licenses fell, there was no plan B. I had to make it work. Right. So here I am standing 14 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Owner of the Printheads. So you just said you just started your business. Okay. When you said, okay, I started my business from there, what did you start from there? Like what exactly? Because I'm sure you started from home. You didn't just start out, because right now we know you have is it 5,000 square feet or?
No, 10,000 square feet, yeah.
Like production house. And we want to get, if you're watching this and you have a desire to like, I'm into that, I want to do something like that, we're going to hear how to get to the production house. But like, I'm pretty sure you didn't say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start my business. Let me go get this production house, go get this 10,000 square feet. So like, what did you start? How did you start? And what was needed to get started?
Yeah, that's a good question. Originally, when I started in my basement. And in my basement, in one room of my basement, and that room, in fact, not only a room, a corner of the room in the basement. So we're talking one heat press machine and one vinyl cutter. I paid at the time $500 total just to get my entire setup.
Okay.
And from there, I knew that I moved conservatively anyway. I just came from the investment world. So I was thinking about the numbers, and I was very much so connected to that. So, just the understanding my margins, the profits, the losses, and the overhead and all of that stuff, that was like very fresh in my mind. So I knew that I wanted a model I eased in conservatively. So what I did is I found vendors that would allow me to just do 1 or 2 or 3 pieces at a time, and I didn't have to order huge volume. So I could save on that. What it allowed me to do is it allowed me to get those onesie, twosie orders in, really start to get that word of mouth going, because the business grew from the corner of the room in the basement to a 1,200 square foot location in about 2 years.
Wow.
And in that 2-year time frame, and really, that was a faith walk too, jumping into that. But in that 2-year time frame leading up to that, and once I finally jumped into the building, the first building, I was in a place where I had now customers coming over to my house now picking up. And it's like, okay, now we're talking about safety and we're talking about my family. And the business is now growing to a point where I'm not really controlling who is coming, because the word of mouth it's just spreading.
It's not just family or friends or somebody who you know and somebody who you know. This is just people.
Right. Now, I do have a question, right? So, were you already doing this prior to you quitting? Like, what made you choose like this business specifically?
Yeah. So I think that, in this era where people are seeing social media and they see that you click on somebody's page, it's like, bam, they got their whole life together. Like, there was no in between. It's just like bam to bam, and it's not like that. That's not real life. It's not my life either. I started out, once I left corporate America, I didn't even start with the Printheads.
Okay.
I actually there were like 3 other businesses that predated the Printheads.
Okay.
There was one that I sold jewelry for, and I went around to just different jewelry shops or different hair salons, and I would swap out my jewelry. I was doing everything that I knew how in terms of sales and trying to incorporate my professional background into something new where I could generate money, because at the time I'm still trying to figure it out, but I know that I have the work ethic. I have the knowledge on how to make something work. And all I needed to do was just figure out that thing. So while I was figuring out the thing, I needed to make some money. So me selling jewelry, that was business number 1 right outside of corporate. Business number 2 was a consulting company that actually did work for quite some time, which I learned a lot from that consulting company. I was able to sit up under my client was my grandfather, John Barfield. And John Barfield, he's no longer with us, but he has a phenomenal story for anybody that's interested in going and checking out his book. It's on Amazon. There's, you can get it online, but his book is titled Starting from Scratch, The Humble Beginnings of a $2 Billion Enterprise. And it talks about his journey from being the son of a sharecropper and migrating north and how he built his business. So I was able to I operated as his assistant, consultant, his book fulfillment center. So I was able to just absorb all of that. I really call it like one of the greatest gifts of my life, being able to sit up under him for that period of time. And I did that for, about 1.5 years or so while I was trying to figure out my way. And then ultimately I started a brand called Baby Says Wear. And Baby Says Wear was a t-shirt maternity line.
Okay.
Now, the t-shirt maternity line, one would thought I was pregnant at the time. I wasn't even pregnant. I didn't know nobody pregnant. Why was I thinking about a pregnant t-shirt? I have no idea. But it sounded like a great idea.
Right.
But so God got a way of doing things, though, because the one thing that if he would have told me that I'm gonna give you a print company that is going to be printing for companies all over the world, that you're gonna be able to print for Warner Brothers Studios, you're gonna be able to print for the Carhartts, the Little Caesars arenas, the Tiger Stadiums, you're gonna be able to print for on that level. Would I have been scared enough to say yes? I would have probably been like, okay, all right, that's what's up, but let me get back to you on that.
Right.
Let me get ready first.
Right. Right.
Because I don't even know about that, right?
Yeah.
So how am I gonna be that great?
That exactly.
So I needed, basically, you needed a place to hone the skill, and so an idea came in your mind that may have not even been the great idea. If you feel like it wasn't great, like I don't know what that was. But
it was very niche.
It's very niche. So it's like, but the idea came and it introduced you into this world,
right,
of needing to print and make and design and okay. So I like it.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Okay.
It was small enough for my brain to wrap for me to wrap my brain around it, and for me to be able to say, oh, I can do that. But the funny thing is I never even did one maternity shirt for one person.
Okay.
In fact, I may have done one, but I gave that away as more of a promo. But that business never got off the ground running, because while I was in there trying to get everything together, that's when people started to learn, oh, you're doing shirts. Can you do a shirt for me? And then one thing led to another, and it happened instantaneously.
Okay.
So that is really the journey, and it wasn't an overnight light switch, turn it on, okay, bam, Printheads, we done heard about you, we know we got your shirts, we wear your stuff.
Right.
This has been a journey.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so I know that listen to you. You are a woman of faith, and I'm sure that impact is important to you as well. It's like I need to do something because I say that because you have that part, which is like to be aware of where you are, what God is saying to you, and what maybe He wants you to do. So I see that. Then I also see the financial side, right? Which is like, I don't care so much about just money enough to where I'm willing to like drain myself for it. I care enough about it because I want to make it, but I need something that's going to allow me to make money and like be fulfilled and make impact, use all my gifts and abilities, put my energy in. Like, so I see that. So I know that eventually you birth out something that's like, that allows you to do that in that way. And I've looked into it, so I know there's a nonprofit, so it's Printheads is not just this print shop. It became this thing where I'm able to, okay, how can I now give back? I don't want to just receive. If I wanted to receive, I could go walk right back in to these jobs that were draining me, but I could do it. So I know you eventually get there, but I don't want to jump. We're going to talk about that, by the way, for those of you guys who are like, I have a business and I know I want to start a nonprofit side to it and I want to give back. We got you. I'm telling you, I know she got it. She going to drop these gems. But before we get there, you just jumped us and said, we in 2 years, we went to the 1,200 square foot. Okay. Give us like, on the creative business piece, give us like some numbers. Give me some back office numbers. What is going on financially? Like, what's your volume of sales to where you say, I need a location? Not just the safety, but it has to be a certain amount of, like, you can constitute having that space. So we started in the basement. Take me to the studio, because somebody just needs to get to the studio.
Yeah.
So give us that piece.
So I remember it was a time when I started out originally and I said, well, I remember at the end of the year when I had to file taxes, let's say the first year, I did, let's say I was like $10,000. I did that and I was like, all right, I'm off the ground. I did it, 10 grand, I got that under my belt. And then you look at all the losses and it's like, well, scrap that. Right. But I knew once it was time to move. When I got into the new place, when it was time, I was nervous because now I had overhead, whereas I didn't necessarily have that before. Right. And are people gonna still come to me that are even more outside of the people that are coming to me now? And so I weighed those things, and I looked around, and one of the things I say about my journey is that anything that's easy, I know it's for me, because everything for me happens so easily. If I gotta push too hard, that's my red flag that I'm already operating in a space that I don't need to be in, because everything happens easy for me. And so when I go to, I said, I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna look. I'm just gonna go see about this place, and I'm not, walking in with any expectations. And I walk in and he's like, I have showed this place to all of these people, yet I want you. And yes, the rent will be X, Y, or Z. I said, okay. I mean, I saw one place, and that's been my story, actually. Wow. I only saw one place twice for both of my locations. And I just knew it immediately. Like, it was too easy. It had to be for me.
But okay, you go from selling one or two shirts. You said onesie twosies.
Onesie twosies, yeah.
But how many are you at by the time you get ready to go to the studio?
Yeah, so
in a month's time frame. So.
In a month's time frame, I'm at the point where now I am at least generating. My rent at the time, it was like $1,200. I remember that, and $1,200. I know I was at least doing $4,000 at least a month in my revenues. Okay. And so I was like, okay, I can justify the expense. Right. Now, now that we have other expenses, and now I need a staff and stuff like that. So then there were some other things that I had to kind of figure out and navigate. So I worked it by myself for a while, even at the shop, the first shop. And once I got to a place, I used to have this sticker on my wall. It was just a piece of paper, and I got some old pictures through my my social media pages that have this piece of paper, white piece of paper with $20,000 on it. And I used to look at it every day, because that $20,000, that was the number that I said, I know that I am not made it, but I feel good once I'm making $20,000 a month. Okay. So that number now is no longer $20,000. $20,000, I'm scared if we're just doing that a month. You know, I'm like, okay, what's happening? I'm fussing at everybody. Like the ship is burning, everything is going down. What's happening? But that was I think that remained a constant reminder for me that I needed to keep my vision in front of me.
Right.
Because every time I see it, I can't escape it. And it's just manifesting. And not only did it do that, I mean, it did that. I mean, I make 4 times, sometimes 5 times per month over that.
Right.
You know, and that is just like a testament to, I don't care how big you think your dreams are. God is like, oh, no, baby, I got more.
Now, what's the consistency? Because I'm like saying, I hear you from, okay, we were in the basement, we went from the basement to the 1,200 square foot space. We haven't even talked about the 10,000 square foot space yet. But how are you getting these customers? Like, how are you acquiring customers? Like, at that point, right?
Because if when basement level, we word of mouth, right? And that's just friends telling a friend onesie twosies, and then now they start telling other people, okay, but now studio, you just said, I want them to share with people who, even beyond that group of people, I want all of them to come back, and then I need to attract new people. So how, that's a good question. How are you?
Yeah, that was really kind of like, I mean, we were just kind of getting into socials for real. You know, we were like right off the MySpace era, kind of a little bit beyond that. But Instagram was really just starting to get, going. And so social media was not my primary source of, marketing.
Right.
My first, I would say, big contract or big deal was with with an organization that went on Good Morning America. And they wore the shirts, and it was like a 500 shirt order. And it was so many shirts for me at the time that when the delivery truck came, they couldn't even get all of them in the front room of my house. They had to, I'm boxes stacked up outside. And that was like okay, here we go. Like this is a fun time, now it's time to have some fun. But it was not, it wasn't all of that all of a sudden. It was definitely like a huge break that had to have happened. And that was really with me just showing up professionally. People just wanted a call back, honestly. I mean, if there is nothing else that I heard more, it was that I left that company because they just didn't call me back. And it's like, well, that was it. I mean, I'm thinking I gotta, bring out all of the corporate traits. Do I gotta, what do I have to do? Do I have to, send thank you letters? Do I have to continue to call and follow up? They just wanted a phone call back, period.
Wow. So your strategy was taking the customer feedback and serving them in the way that they wanted to be served, which is when I get people, I'm retaining them because I have a follow-up habit with them.
Yeah, I think my strategy was trying to operate in an industry where people would normally just say, okay, that's an industry where, it's music playing loud, people dressed in your type of way, whatever free-flowing life, however it looks in your mind when you think about, a creative t-shirt printing shop or something like that.
Right.
I wanted to level that up, and I wanted to give them a professional, almost corporate experience, because that's where I came from. And so it was different, and I think it was a breath of fresh air for a lot of people.
Right. No, and that's interesting that you say that, right? Because, we're creatives, we work with creatives, and we know how working with creatives can be, right? There's is it a myth? I don't know, but there seems to be there can be a lack of professionalism, like you said. It seems that, not dependable, not reliable, and things like that. So it seems like what you're saying is, for me, I wanted to bring that professionalism that I learned in corporate, that being intentional, being consistent, right, being dependable. I wanted to bring that to my business so that not only that retain customers, but because now, once again, referral base is big, they're sharing with other people to let them know that, oh, this isn't your typical creative brand, right? Like they're dependable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is a professional print situation
Right.
you just walked into. Okay, so that's how you're retaining customers. At this time, you are deploying social media a little bit to get organic traffic. Are you at ads yet at this
Right.
point? Are you going to trade shows? Are you getting in certain books? Or what are all the promo strategies to get new people to talk to you? Or is it still just this really cool word of mouth thing that's happening?
So word of mouth happened for quite a long time, but with a lot more strategy. I started to focus my efforts on centers of influence. So instead of going to just mass markets, instead of going to vending shows, I knew that wasn't for me. I wasn't for the vending life. Not knocking nobody who does, because there's a lot of money in that. It just wasn't for me. But going to vending shows or doing anything else, I knew that my energy, I knew the type of customer I wanted. I was very clear on that. I wanted to have ultimately I wanted to have a corporate customer. And though I know that on day one I wasn't going to have that, I needed to be able to align myself so that I could get that corporate customer and get that corporate client. So I started to position myself, and so when I went out to establish, just networking relationships, my centers of influence were I chose, they were very strategically chosen, I would say. And those partnerships grew to a place where that is where most of the big doors opened for me. The big doors didn't open from social media. The big doors didn't open from word of mouth, just organic word of mouth. The big stuff started to come when my centers of influence, they became my mouthpiece, because at that point they knew that they could rely on the person that they were getting ready to refer, because nobody wants to refer someone that's going to drop the ball and not do right by them. So they became my mouthpiece, and that's an easy sale. Just as soon as someone says, "Oh, go check them out," this is you as good as got the business. All you got to do is just keep delivering, just the same way that you have.
Now that center of influence piece, like, how do you network or create those relationships in order for that to happen? Because I'm hearing you say that, this happened because of this here, but let's say somebody like myself who doesn't, I'm just starting out. I want that corporate client. Like you said, listen, them corporate clients got that corporate money, right? So how does,
tell them, go ahead and give us the sauce, the juice. Like, okay, when you say I didn't try to go mass all these people, I went to specific ones who could give me a mass amount of product.
Exactly.
Like you said, that's a good question.
Yeah. So what I did is I started to find, because I was already connected in the professional realm by itself, from my previous career, I started to lean on some of those contacts, and I started to say, what's going on in the, what's happening out here? Because I was no longer now in the finance world. So I couldn't necessarily go to a convention or go to a conference or go somewhere that they're talking about that. But if there were any like empowerment or motivational events that were happening, I made sure that I was there. And I leaned on my connections that I already had. Now, the whole, me saying that I was a name drop, I would name drop like a mug. And I would be like, oh yeah, such and such, I know them. And it would really just, the barriers would fall. And, definitely, you just got to do what you got to do. And I knew the people that I was referencing, but that just allowed me to get a little bit closer, because I think that when you enter into a conversation and it looks like it's self-serving and it feels like it's self-serving, then the blocks come up. But if it feels organic, if it feels like, okay, I know this person, or somebody sent me or somebody sent her that that I know and that I trust, and we're just having a really good organic conversation, what happens is that later on, when they have the need, they're like, oh yeah, I had a really good conversation with that person. So that was really my angle and my strategy.
Okay. I want to know the one thing that's holding most creative entrepreneurs back? It's not the talent. It's not even the vision. It's the lack of capital. Every day I watch brilliant creatives miss life-changing opportunities simply because they can't access business funding. Traditional banks, they really don't understand creative business like that. And most lenders, well, they don't care. But guess what? That ends today. With the Minding My Creative Business partnership with Credit Savant, you can access up to $150,000 in business credit. You heard correct. Up to $150,000 in business credit. They have 0% interest options with 30+ funding programs designed for creatives just like you. So what I need you to do is visit creditsavant.io now. Tell them MMCB sent you.
But okay, so you were saying that's your strategy and the centers of influence. So what I always like to do when I'm listening, I try to give real world examples for someone who may not be in your specific niche, but something that I've seen done previously. So I remember another guy in Dallas. He had a print shop and he knew who his target client, who he wanted to go after. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be, sports apparel has to get printed from somebody. So he had to position himself, which what you talked about earlier. And we're gonna go back to like, how do you position yourself to even get those type of clients? Because that's some back office stuff. And I like to take people behind the brand, right? But what he did, instead of just trying to go out here and like, you trying to sell like to all these different people one by one, and the next thing you know, you'll have 10,000 people. Or you can go to the sports industry, and when I network and I come up with some kind of deal with this one person, they're going to be able to get me to do all the shirts for all 10 teams in the little league, right? So now each team has 15 to 20 students on it, and so I now have, let's say, just say 20, and it's 10 teams. Now I'm doing 200 at this time because I went to one person to get the 200 instead of just trying to, you see. So I want to make sure that that's clear, and I saw him do that. That is what you're referencing as centers of influence. Who is in influence in the target market that I'm trying to reach? Yeah. I want to be able to print all your stuff, because it's not just your jersey. You're going to need your little warm-up gear. You're going to need your practice stuff. You're going to need the sweat, this jumpsuit for when it's cold outside. And I want to be printing. I want to be the person that's printing all of that for you. And so he went and strategically got in places, because you would think, well, I'm going to just go. You can't just sell it to the one student. That's not going to be enough. You have to go where the influence is. So I love that that piece.
Yeah, no, and like you said, that corporate, they always need something, right? Whether it's polos for all the staff, whether it's T-shirts for this event, or whatever the case may be. So that's a perpetual.
It is. And not only that, it's business that just does not, it doesn't dry up. But in addition to that, those are people too. Yeah. And people don't like change. So if that person is familiar with you, when they need something for themselves or their family reunion, who are they calling? They're calling you, because the last thing I'm about to do is go try to find out somewhere else when this is working just fine. And so, that those companies really become, that corporate business becomes a whole lot of individual business. And it's just a pyramid of just service that you could provide to everybody.
Wow. I love it. Okay, now I told the people I was going to go behind the brand. And this is the Minding My Creative Business podcast. So we said we're going behind the brand. Take us into the back office. So we know we went from the basement to the studio or to the shop. We know we went from doing, onesie twosies to about 4,000 in sales. Then eventually we get into more sales. Okay, but there are some things that I have to do on the back end to position myself to get those clients. When you say that, is it like, give us some examples of is it some things that you had to apply for? Is it some things you had to submit? Is it some systems you had to buy, some processes that you have to implement? What is that on the back end so that you can be attractive to the type of client that you're looking to attract?
So that was a good question about the systems and the processes, because I found that when you are YouTube, you can find anything. YouTube University, right? And you can find out how to start a business. You can find out what you need, all the preliminary stuff. You get your paperwork together, your tax ID number together. You got all of that. And all that information is there. What I did not find was what happens when the business is growing rapidly. What happens now?
Right.
So I had to navigate that space, and I'm like, okay, one is like, oh, that's a good problem to have. And it is a good problem to have until it's not.
Right.
Because then you can really implode. You know, a lot of companies, they get to a place where, you know, they're in their infantry state, and then they get to the growth phase, and they got rapid growth, and then a lot of people stop before they actually get to the peak of it.
Exactly.
Because either the owner is burnt out because they're doing too much and they're not delegating, or they don't even have the staffing to delegate to handle the business that they have. They haven't scaled properly. They don't have the processes and the systems in place in order to make sure that they can scale properly. And so I had to navigate that space for a long time. That was a period of maybe about a good couple years of like, oh shoot, like I got all of these orders, my writing down orders on, that's not working for me anymore. I can't keep them in my notes in my phone anymore. I actually need a CRM. I need to be able to take, or not only take the orders, I need to be able to follow up with the customer. I need to be able to provide invoicing, and I need to be able to provide reports at the end of the year for my tax advisor. And so there was a lot of different things that I was like, I didn't realize I had to have set up, and I had to learn in real time. And it was very evident that I had to learn it in real time when the one thing that I was doing in order to get all of this business, that I realized that, oh, I see how people don't give a call back because they're drowning and they can't call back, and there's not enough time in the day. And so that's when I said I need some help, and B, I needed to fire myself, honestly, because too often as the owner, you're so attached to the business. It's your baby. You want to make sure that it's growing. You want to make sure it's surviving, that it's sustaining, and nobody else is going to take care of yours like you are. But I became a bottleneck, and everything had to go through me for approval. But if I had 1,000 things on my list, it might have been important to you to approve, but that's number 999 on my list. And I still got to get through the other things that are equally as important to other people. And so realizing that, I said, okay, that in order for me to do this for real, on a big level, on the level that I imagine, I got to remove myself, and I have to take myself to not working in the business, but to working on it, and more so being the visionary and the one that's bringing forth the creative ideas and the structure, while the people that I've put in place, that they are handling and maintaining the roles in which they have. It took me a while to get there, though.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the fact that you were able to see that, where it's like, okay, I have a million things to do, and that I can't solely do them. I need some assistance to be able to come in to assist me, so that, once again, it's still getting done, but it ain't got to be done by me. And like I said, that's a lot of times, a lot of people don't understand that, right? And listen, I ain't gonna front, I still struggle with that at times, right? It's like, there's times where it's like, okay, do I really got to do this, or can I delegate this? And if I don't delegate this, is this something that can be automated, as Shy likes to do? You know what I'm saying? So it's like learning that and understanding that, but you wouldn't have learned that if you didn't go through it.
If I didn't go through it.
So that's the thing where it's like a lot of these things we try to avoid, but it's like, no, you got to go through it to learn it, to know that this is what I need. Exactly. And that's going to make you better and the business better in the long run.
For sure, yeah.
You know, I wanted to start the Minding My Creative Business podcast because I am a creative, but my background is more on the structure side. It's the system side, it's the logistics, it's the operations. And being a creative myself, I've been in a position that you've been in, and like many other creatives, it's not just with the print shop. What about when I make cupcakes and all of a sudden I'm getting orders out the wazoo? What about when I do balloons and I say, oh, and now I'm all of a sudden all these parties, and you see, because with creativity, unlike other business models, and that's why this podcast is important, is because they can tell you on those other podcasts about general business, and you kind of start the business with scale in mind. with creativity, you don't necessarily have to have all these systems and structure and personnel and people in place to get started.
Right.
You do not need systems to start, but you do need them to scale. You do not need help to start, but you do need help to scale. And also, it's not like my goal is to scale. Sometimes the goal is just simply to meet the demand that my company has started to generate. I'm not even over here thinking about, okay, how I'm going to scale. I'm going to level up. I'm about to go to this big building. I'm just trying to meet the demand. And in order for me to meet the demand, I literally have to automate something. I literally can't manually send this invoice. I can't be the person answering this question because I have to go to this meeting to talk to another person who's in my center of influence, who's going to get me another 1,000 good t-shirts at the time and back on TV and all. You see? So I literally just cannot. I'm just trying to meet the demand. I'm not even here trying to scale. And so I think that, and my hope is that during this podcast that people are listening to 6, 7, 8-figure business and thinking, oh, that's a thing, that they got started with their creativity. And then at some point they realize, oh, I got to keep up, and I can't keep up at this rate, and I have to go in on the back end and change things, so that as they're starting with the end in mind. You know, they're starting with a little bit more of what, you know, like what you wish you would have known, like, oh, I probably should have this in place, so as it gets busy, it'll already be there, you know, so.
Yeah, I know that I felt one of the things, biggest lessons for me, and it's really a hard lesson. Really, it is a hard lesson for my fellow creatives and entrepreneurs out there, that you're either running a business or you're ruining it. And the only difference is the I. You remove that. I was like, ouch.
Say it again.
Okay.
I need you to repeat that for the people in the back.
You're either running it or you're ruining it. And the I is the only thing that is separating the two. And it's like, okay, if I remove the I, then I remove the problem, because even though I created it, I have become the problem. Once you realize that, honey, life gets sweeter, because my ears turned off, and every problem, I used to be ear hustling. I used to be like, what's going on? What's going on? Now I'm like, you know what? I can't. I got to turn my ears off. I got to close my door. I just have to mind my famous saying at the shop, I got to mind the business that pays me.
Yeah.
I'm leaving y'all alone. Y'all got to figure this out, because I can't do it anymore.
And that's the thing too, where it goes back to, if you hire the right people, right? I'm hiring you because you have a skill set, right? I'm hiring you because you have the character. I'm hiring you because you have these things that, okay, I can trust you to do it. So I don't need to micromanage. I don't need to be in it as much as part of you wants to, but like you said, that I want to be in it because this is my baby. I created this. You know, all the eyes. But it's like, okay, I like that. It's like you either running or ruining it. It's the eye. You gotta take that eye out of there so you can run it. I love it.
Ooh.
That's a bar.
Okay, so you took the eye out, right? And you got out of the way of the business. You start letting things go a different way than how you would have do it. Now we're doing it the way it needs to be done to serve these clients. It may not be how we want to do it, but this is what we have to do to keep up with this. Because the business has a mission, not necessarily just your mission. So you step back and you're now able to be this visionary, you're able to be this creative and so forth and so on. Is that like stepping back, is that when you realize like, oh, I could make more impact and start thinking about we, right? You move that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that when you started, or have you always known that I want to like give back in some kind of way and make some kind of impact with my business? Or did it coincide with that time?
I think it kind of coincided, really, because here I was in a place where I needed to have a strong team, and I knew that I didn't want to be on the production room floor forever. In order for me to be able to train up a strong team, I needed to be able to make sure that they were trained up under either me or the people that I trained, because I am meticulous about the stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, and everybody knows that, you know, you have a shirt come out And everybody's like, is there a mistake on that? And I'm like, yep, scrap it. And it's like, I didn't even see the mistake. And I'm like, nope. The customer, I didn't even see it. And I'm like, no, I could see it. And because I could see it, the quality is extremely important. So I really I try to hone in on that big time with my team. And so I wanted to make sure that the new people that were going to be coming in to help me, that they had to have the foundation.
Yeah.
And I realized that as the customers were coming in, and I started to notice that it was a merch this, merch that. For the last few years, all you hear from the young folks is merch, merch, merch.
Right.
And it became such a thing that it's like, well, you know what? Let me show you how to create your own merch. And in order for me to show you how to create your own merch, let me show you how much that stuff really costs. And let me show you how you can take this little bitty money and turn it into something a lot larger than that. In the way of disguising it and kind of like, you making the vegetables, with you covering them up with sprinkles and all of that stuff.
Right.
And so, talking about all this, boring business building stuff, I'm like, let's create a creative design and t-shirt printing program where we can now pour into the youth that have this interest in merch, that have this interest in, I know I want to do something, I know I want to wear something of my own, and they just don't have any type of idea of how to get it started, or that it seems so much bigger than them. And don't get me wrong, when I started, it was $500 to start to get my equipment. I know with inflation and all that stuff that it's probably 3 to 4 times higher than that today. But today we have something that we didn't have before. There are ways where systems and things can be automated where all you have to do is really conceptually come up with the idea, have another printing fulfillment center, print, fulfill it, ship it. You don't touch it. You're making money in your sleep. Right. And so I try to give the youth those things also, that, it's not a matter of just come to the Printheads and come get all your work done, or come to the Printheads to come through our program. But let me teach you how to fish.
Right. So you were starting to thinking like, I want to be able to train up some people who because the people who are going to come work and intern, and they're interested, but they need to be trained. So it's like, let me start training them early. Or was it like, also, I just keep hearing this from them about their merch, and I know I'm in that world, and I need to get in there. Which way?
Yeah. So it was a combination of the two. So when the young people would come in and they had their money saved up that they didn't, maybe it's a refund checks from school, I don't know, but they came on in and they were ready to start. They were excited. I knew that they were so on fire that they were asking about internship opportunities, and I said, okay, well, there's a need there. And then when I started to talk to some other young folks, and they lit up, they were just like, oh my God, I get to print a shirt. And I took something that was so regular to me, so everyday, and I discounted it. And I was just like, you get excited about printing a shirt? Like, it's just a shirt. Yeah. But I realized that it's not every day for everybody, and everybody can't just go and just, ta-da, let me get a custom something and wear it. And so when I realized how special that was to someone else, then I said, okay, this is something that I want to teach people so that they can actually have a sense of ownership. Whether they decide to do it right now themselves, or whether they decide to do it, they decide to go to college and they want to do it as a side hustle, whether they want to start a full-on merch business, or whether they want to say, you know what? I at least know it when I start a business. I understand the process. I understand that branding is important, because we go through all of that, which I know that we haven't really gone into the Printhead University, which is the nonprofit side of the Printheads. Right. And that is.
I was just about to say, so we're talking about what you started doing, but can you give the people the name?
But before we go there, though, I don't want y'all to miss the fact that she said that it was a minimization or devaluing, because this is what I do. This ain't that deep. So what's common to you isn't common to everybody. What comes easy for you doesn't come easy for everybody. So you have value in that, right? I have something that I can offer and give that comes this simple. Let's just print a shirt. But for somebody that's big, like I can take an idea and a vision, put it on a shirt and sell it and make what?
Yeah.
So I don't want y'all to miss that. So the skills that y'all got that come easy and simple to y'all, that y'all discount all the time. But just because you discount it come easy don't mean it's not valuable. So, okay. I just want to put that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Because I knew as a person, as a good host, we're going to look into the person we're going to be interviewing, and we said, what all does this person do? And so we know we have the Printheads, and I told you we was going to come back and talk about this impact side, because I knew from research that you had started a nonprofit aspect of what you're doing. And so we just kind of, like you said, we started talking about it, but let's call it what it is. You called it what?
The Printheads University.
Right.
Yes, a t-shirt.
Right, T as in t-shirt. Love it. Love it.
I was like, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started it because it's for a number of reasons. Okay, so now my question is, I guess at this point, now that you started it, okay, so is it only for, like, is there a business benefit to having a nonprofit as well or is it, I don't really care about the business benefits. I really do it because I saw it as the light bulb moment for those students and a way to train, or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, it's absolutely both. I believe that when I hear the words that your gifts will make room for you, that kind of fits in that context, because you are allowing your gifts to create something. Mm-hmm. And that gift that is creating something is able to now take root. Your planting seeds can take root, and it can sprout into, a forest for so many other people. Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, though, while that forest is fostering, generating, growing, and doing all of the things, you are reaping the rewards of some of that shade that's starting to happen. Now you're starting to get some of that, you're getting some of that covering from the forest. Mm. And it's so it is mutually beneficial. There are certainly some advantages that come along with having a nonprofit and a for-profit business. And there are advantages, really being able to, if you have a really strong tax professional, being able to figure out ways where you can generate business for, both the nonprofit and the for-profit business, mm-hmm. And without it necessarily being self-serving, mm-hmm. all the time. And so I think that that's just one of the benefits. It's one of your rewards for pouring into other people. You get to get a little bit of that harvest.
Right. We know that nonprofits don't exist to make profit, right? And so, but they do. They have operating costs, you know what I mean? I would say there's profit there's teams, there's people that has to be paid, there's resources, there's all those types of things. How do you currently sustain that business model? Mm-hmm. And you can give me just really quickly, because we know how you sustain Printheads. We saw the glow up from the basement to the production house, but just now that you have this university, how do you sustain it? And just so that it can kind of maintain and keep it afloat?
Well, that's a good question. So, outside of just going out to getting funding and starting the whole process all over again, networking, making sure that you are strategically positioning yourself with the right people, that when the money comes available, who do I think about? I think about that person right there. Mm-hmm. So, that right there, I think that goes without saying. But, with the Printhead University, just being able to, sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah,
sorry.
She said.
Not sorry.
Because we're about to wrap up here in a second anyway. So I was just basically saying, we know how you sustain Printheads because, with the business and all that. But how do you, a nonprofit has to stay afloat. So how do you?
Yeah, okay, I got you.
How do you maintain it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you got to, there has to be some kind of financial transaction there so that it can sustain.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, naturally with nonprofit organizations, no, we don't have the, the profit coming in. But what we do have is we have volunteers. We have the Printheads that donates quite a lot of things, which is a tax benefit to the Printheads for being able to donate to the Printhead University.
Exactly.
So, then that's what I mean as far as using you get to reap some of those rewards.
Right.
So, in your time, in your service, in your donations, in things like that, there are ways to offset some of the income that you may be generating on another side, which can cause you some tax savings.
Right.
So those are really some of the strategies and the things that we're using in order to be able to sustain, but just continuously getting out here and getting in front of the right people and making sure that we're making the right connections so that we can grow the program as large as we can so that we can get as many of our youth at least entrepreneurial minded, whether they decide to take that step or not, at least they understand how it works because you can use an entrepreneur's mindset in anything that you do in life.
In anything, yeah. And what I'm hearing you say, like just that initial piece where there was a level of intention, it's like, okay, listen, I don't want to do what I've been doing. I want to do something different. I didn't know what it fully was, but you moved, right? You didn't wait until you had it all figured out. You said, I'm going to move, and as I move, I'll figure it out. Then as you figured it out, it got clearer. Then you were able to then add some more to it. Okay, I just don't want to do t-shirts, but I want to do it for this particular ideal audience. I want to do B2B. I want to go business to business. Not saying that you don't have individuals that you work with, because you said you do this. It's like, the people that I'm doing business for, they people, so they still come to me for individual stuff as well. You know what I'm saying? So just seeing that whole process is life is phenomenal. Where it's like, okay, intention, leaping, taking a leap of faith, networking. You know what I'm saying? Relationship building. As I build relationships, receiving feedback on what it is that they want. So I'm taking that feedback in, and now okay, give me a call back. I can do that. But understanding that now as I'm growing, I'm now getting inundated. So now I have to remove the I out of my business so I don't ruin it, so I can run it, right? And then from there, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just seeing all that, and it's a strategy. You know what I'm saying? It's a strategy, and along in that strategy and on that journey, okay, we had to put systems in place because now, because more is happening, I can't do all this, so I need to hire somebody, or I need to have a CRM. I need to have something that can do invoicing. I need to have all these things that can help me my creative business.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I already knew I was going to love talking to you because you named your nonprofit University.
Right.
And that's a bar, it's like very creative right there. And so, and then it's, from Printheads, I even like that and how you call your customers and clients the repeat ones, they're Printheads. And I just like the whole branding within the brand. And I just knew, you would have so much to share for people who are interested in that space and like what you do with your nonprofit. Even if they weren't interested in being in the print space, some of the tips and tools and things that she shared can be applied in anything. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming. Yes. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you. Also, we want to thank you all for spending time listening, right? Hopefully you all got something from this. We want to encourage you, join the Creatives Corner community. So go to mmcbpodcast.com. That's mmcbpodcast.com, and be a part of the Creatives Corner community, where there's a newsletter and there's a Facebook group with other creative entrepreneurs like yourself. Okay, so do that and do all the other things, like, share, comment, all the things, so that we can continue to grow this phenomenal podcast and it gets out to more people like yourself. Shy, I'm gonna give it to you.
All right, so I love you listening, and we thank you for it, but we also want you to be active. And one of the things you can be active in doing is actually speaking well over yourself about how you can apply all things here. So say the mantra that we say at the end of every episode, okay?
I got you.
Everybody here, we're going to say it all together. You're going to say it online, and we're going to be out. So all it takes
All it takes
is intention,
consistency,
and laser focus to mind my creative business.
Peace.
Peace.